It's 2 a.m. The house is silent, but you are wide awake. You aren't awake because you are rested. You are awake because of an urgent, undeniable pressure in your bladder. You stumble to the bathroom in the dark, disrupting your deep sleep cycles, and crawl back into bed, hoping to fall asleep before the alarm goes off. But the next morning, you feel exhausted and brain-fogged. You might look down at your ankles and see deep indentations left by your socks, or notice that your rings feel unusually tight on your fingers. You tell yourself this is just a normal part of getting older. But let me be clear, this isn't just aging, and for most of you, it isn't actually a bladder problem. The mainstream medical establishment, and likely your own intuition, insists this is a structural plumbing issue. If you are a man, you are told it's an enlarged prostate. If you are a woman, you are told it's an overactive bladder. The standard advice is almost insulting: just drink less water before bed. But this advice fails you because it ignores the biological reality. You aren't peeing because you drank too much. You are peeing because your kidneys are actively dumping fluid to save your heart from pressure. Treating the bladder with medication while ignoring the metabolic engine is a dirty approach that masks the symptom, while the root cause, systemic insulin resistance, worsens in the background. In this video, we are going to prove that nocturia, waking up to pee, is actually a fuel gauge for your metabolic health. We will uncover how a specific metabolic villain called compensatory hyperinsulinemia is hijacking your kidneys' sodium pumps and disrupting your circadian clock. If you wake up to pee, it is not your bladder acting up, it is your blood sugar and insulin crying out for help, years before a diabetes diagnosis ever appears on your lab work. To understand why you can't sleep through the night, we have to open up the hood and look at the biological engine driving this process. The mechanism forces your body to act like a leaky faucet, and it is driven by a combination of two specific metabolic failures: osmotic diuresis and insulin-mediated sodium retention. Normally, your kidneys are incredible efficient filters. Every day they filter your entire blood volume, reabsorbing useful energy, like glucose, so it doesn't get wasted. They do this using special catchers called SGLT2 transporters. But when you are metabolically inflexible and suffering from insulin resistance, your kidneys are bombarded with the hormone insulin. This is where the trouble starts. Insulin acts like a frantic manager, overstimulating channels in your renal tubules known as NAE3 and ENaC. These channels force your kidneys to aggressively hoard sodium. You aren't retaining water because you are eating too much salt. You are retaining water because your insulin is locking the salt inside your body, preventing it from leaving. Simultaneously, if your blood sugar spikes too high, specifically breaching the threshold of 180 milligrams per deciliter, those SGLT2 transporters get overwhelmed. I want you to visualize this clearly to understand the sick state. Imagine your kidney tubules are a high-speed conveyor belt, and the SGLT2 transporters are dock workers trying to grab packages off the line. When you have high blood sugar, the belt is moving too fast and is overloaded with packages. The workers cannot grab them all. As the sugar slips past them, it acts like a magnet. It drags heavy water molecules with it, bypassing the recycling center and dumping straight into the incinerator, your bladder. This is the biological definition of spilling sugar, and it creates a massive volume of urine that simply must get out. But the damage isn't just happening in the kidneys. It is happening in your blood vessels, leading to what we call the gravity shift. Visualize the microscopic capillaries in your ankles. Under the constant assault of high insulin and high sugar, the protective inner lining of your blood vessels begins to erode, called the glycocalyx. It becomes sticky and weak. The vessel walls swell and become brittle. The tight junctions, the zippers that hold your cells together, are blown open. Plasma leaks out of the vessel and into the surrounding tissue. This is why your ankles look boggy, waterlogged, and puffy by 5 p.m. The tissue is acting like a wet sponge, soaking up fluid that should be in your veins. But here is the good news: this is reversible. When we lower insulin, we enter the heal state. Visualize those endothelial cells zipping up their tight junctions. The leak stops. Your kidneys open the floodgates, a process called natriuresis, and that boggy water in your tissues is sucked back into the vessels like a drying sponge, turning your tissue firm and defined again. The most dangerous part of this condition is the silent accumulation. This mechanism is the definition of a silent killer. Research confirms that insulin resistance often precedes a type 2 diabetes diagnosis by 10 to 20 years. During this decade-long silent phase, your doctor might tell you your fasting glucose is normal. But that is only because your pancreas is pumping out massive toxic amounts of insulin to compensate and keep that sugar number down. This invisible hyperinsulinemia is slowly damaging your renal clocks and eroding your blood vessels long before the blood sugar alarm sounds on a standard lab test. By the time the glucose rises, the damage is already deep. We see the proof of this in the data. A comprehensive analysis of NHANES data reveals a terrifying reality. Only 12.2% of American adults meet the criteria for optimal metabolic health. Furthermore, the TIG index, a specific marker used to estimate insulin resistance, has been shown to strongly correlate with the severity of nocturia. If you are waking up to pee, your body isn't just hydrated. It is frantically trying to manage a fuel toxicity crisis. So, here is the pivot that changes everything. The hidden connection between your swollen ankles at 5 p.m. and your desperate need to pee at 2 a.m. comes down to one fundamental force: gravity. This phenomenon represents a failure of fluid distribution, not just fluid volume. We call this the gravity shift. When you have insulin resistance, your kidneys are biologically programmed to hoard salt and water during the day. Because you are upright, standing, walking, or sitting, gravity pulls this excess trapped fluid down into the lowest part of your body. It pools in your legs, creating that telltale edema. Let's trace the domino effect of how this daytime swelling turns into your nighttime nightmare. Step 1 is the root cause: chronic hyperinsulinemia. Your high insulin levels activate the Na+K+ ATPase pump and mimic a hormone called aldosterone. This forces your kidneys to retain sodium against your will. You are essentially a closed system holding onto water. Step 2 is daytime retention. Throughout the day, this retained fluid accumulates in your lower extremities. Crucially, your heart doesn't feel this fluid load yet, because it is trapped in the tissues of your ankles, effectively hidden from your central circulation. But then comes step 3, the nighttime dump. This is the critical moment. When you finally lie flat to go to sleep, gravity no longer holds that fluid in your legs. It rushes back into your bloodstream, a process called venous return. Suddenly, your heart detects a massive, dangerous surge in blood volume. We call this hypervolemia. Your heart senses the pressure rising and panics. To save itself, it releases a powerful hormone called atrial natriuretic peptide, or ANP. ANP screams at the kidneys to dump fluid immediately to lower the pressure. Your kidneys obey, rapid-firing urine production, and your bladder fills up in a matter of hours. That is why you wake up. It isn't a prostate problem, it is a volume management problem caused by insulin. This leads us to the most dangerous myth in heart and kidney health: salt causes water retention, so you must cut sodium. This advice is dangerously incomplete. The truth is that insulin is the jailer that locks salt in your body. If you aggressively cut salt but keep eating high-carb foods, keeping your insulin high, you will still retain fluid. Even worse, you will likely develop a severe electrolyte imbalance. The real issue is often not an excess of salt, but a deficiency of potassium. Potassium is the intracellular counterweight that helps pump fluid out of the cells. If you restrict salt without fixing the insulin that is trapping it, you are fighting a losing battle against your own biochemistry. You don't need less salt, you need less insulin to unlock the jail cell. To stop the gravity shift and finally sleep through the night, we have to execute a precise maneuver. We must aggressively lower insulin while simultaneously flooding your cells with potassium. But here is where most people fail. The source of that potassium matters more than the amount. You have likely been told that if you have cramps or water retention, you should eat a banana or a baked potato. I want you to stop doing that immediately. While those foods do contain potassium, they come wrapped in a massive glycemic load. The sugar in that banana spikes your insulin, and that insulin triggers immediate sodium retention. It effectively cancels out the benefit of the potassium. You are running in place. You also need to eliminate dirty keto foods like processed deli meats, pepperoni, and industrial seed oils. These foods might be low in sugar, but they cause systemic inflammation that disrupts the delicate clock genes inside your kidney cells. Instead, I want you to switch to clean sources. Start eating cooked beet greens, Swiss chard, avocado, and wild salmon. To give you perspective, a single cup of cooked beet greens has nearly 900 milligrams of potassium, double that of a banana, with almost zero insulin response. This is how you win. You get the mineral signal to dump water without the hormonal signal to hold it. Now, let's implement the specific intervention we call the switch protocol. This is designed to force your body into natriuresis, the biological state of dumping excess sodium. Phase 1 is the insulin reset. You need to reduce your net carbohydrates to under 30 grams per day for the first 2 weeks. This drastically drops your basal insulin levels, signaling the kidneys to finally open the sodium gates. When you do this, you will experience the whoosh effect. This is a rapid loss of water weight, often 5 to 8 pounds, in the first 3 to 7 days. This isn't fat loss yet. This is your ankles finally draining the swamp. Phase 2 is circadian entrainment using a 16-8 fasting window. But the hours you choose are non-negotiable. The golden rule for nocturia is this: you must stop eating 4 hours before bed. This is not about calories, it is about hormones. It takes roughly 4 hours for post-meal insulin to return to baseline. You need low insulin to allow for the natural nocturnal rise of a hormone called antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. ADH is the chemical signal that tells your kidneys to concentrate urine and slow down production so you can sleep. If you eat a snack at 9 p.m., insulin stays high, ADH is suppressed, and your kidneys keep producing urine at a daytime rate all night long. To support this protocol, you need to hit a specific nutrient target. Aim for 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day from those clean food sources. Think of potassium as the pump that pulls fluid out of the boggy interstitial spaces and back into the blood where it can be filtered. Additionally, do not ignore magnesium. Many cases of urinary urgency are actually caused by magnesium deficiency, which leads to detrusor muscle instability. This is just a fancy way of saying your bladder muscles are twitching and spasming. Supplementing with magnesium helps relax the bladder, increasing its storage capacity, while the insulin reduction lowers the total volume of fluid entering it. By fixing your insulin, you fix the leak in your kidneys. You stop the gravity shift.